Hello and welcome to the next demonstration on accounts and local security policy. In this lab, I will actually be splitting this video into two parts as we have a lot of information and material to discuss and demonstrate. Here I'm going to be working out of a domain environment using a server and client computer. So I have my server activated and ready to go. And let's just jump right into it. I'm going to bring up my server manager here. So from our server manager or our server computer here, we do have two options to get into our computer management console. We can either enter the command from our run prompt application the same way we did from our workgroup computer, or we can just get there from our tools in the upper right here. So if you select tools, second option down is the computer management, and you can get to it the same way that way. Just wait for that to pop up here. And we'll go to our local users and computers and users here. So we want to check our local security and policies, but before we do that, we're going to check out a few things here first. So I'm just going to start with creating a new user here, and I will select Mike for the name. User must change password, go ahead and deselect that. And for this first user here, I am not going to create a password for him. I'm just going to hit create, close, and you can see that that Mike user was created with no password. Now we're going to right click and do another new user. And for this one, I'm going to do a user by the name of Tom. Same thing here. We'll uncheck the changing the password. For this one, we're going to go with just a very simple password. I'm going to say 12345. And then we'll hit create. And now we get this error saying the password does not meet password policy requirements. Check minimum password length, password complexity, and password history requirements. So let me close this here. So now I'm going to go ahead and just create him with no password, the same we did with Mike. Close, create, and close. So now we have our two new users, Mike and Tom. So we're able to create user accounts with no password at all, but when we enter a password for the user account, it's strict with the complexity requirements. Why? So to understand these options, we're going to go into our local security policies here. And same thing as with the computer management console, you can either do the short command run from secpol.msc, or we can go back to our tools and use the drop down under local security policies. Let me just minimize that and select that. And here I'll just make this large again. We'll go to account policies, and I'm going to select password policies. So in our policies here, we can see our security settings, which are the reason behind why we were having our issues earlier with creating the new account with a password. So we can see our minimum password length here is set to 0 characters, which is why we were able to make the accounts without a password. And the meeting complexity requirements is enabled. So due to this, we're able to create those user accounts without a password at all. But if we want to use a password, then it needs to be a complex password. So I'm now going to bring up my computer management console again, and we're going to try a new username with a complex password. For this one, we'll go with the name Jerry. Uncheck that. And for this one, I'm just going to go 8 plus, and we'll create. Passwords and confirmation did not match. Please retype. All right. There we go. And so we're able to create Jerry just by doing a complex password. So in this work group environment, which will differ from like an Active Directory type of environment, for our server, our password simply has to meet the complexity to be accepted. So this is one of the tiny differences we see between our server work group environment versus how we had policies on our client computer environment in my previous video. So let's go ahead and delete these 3 users, and then we're going to verify the kinds of settings we have in a domain type environment where we have Active Directory services And for that, we're going to go through and install Active Directory domain services on our server computer first. So let me just delete these. Close this down, and we'll close this one here. So now we're back on our server manager dashboard. So here we're going to select add roles and features. This is going to bring up our setup wizard here. We'll select next. And we're going with a role-based or feature-based installation next. This is just going to show us our selected server here. This is a 2016A next. And here we're going to select Active Directory Domain Services. Select that. We're going to add features, hit next. Keep all these default settings here, next. And then we're going to install. And I'm just going to pause here to save time while this finishes the installation. Okay, so now our Active Directory Domain Services role is installed. After installation, we get this notification here that states that we need to promote this server to a domain controller. So I'm going to select this now. And then we get these options here for deployment configuration, or essentially asks you to select which option you're going with. Add a domain controller to an existing domain, add a new domain to an existing forest, or add a new forest. Because this is the first time ever that we're installing our Active Directory on this server here, we're going to select add a new forest. And then at this point, it's going to ask you for your root domain name. Now we'll set up the name of our domain or organization. Here, I'm just going to set something simple for this demo, like My Labs, and I'm going to go with .NET. I actually don't want to capitalize everything. First time there. So I'll go with mylabs.net. You can go with any name you like, .com, .net, .edu, .org, whatever you like. I'm just going with the .net here. I'm going to select next. Now it's going to ask for the DSRM password, or directory services restore mode password. So this is a password we use to restore the backup of our Active Directory. This is going to be a 7-character complex password. I will just set this as C3. Next. We won't be doing anything here with DNS delegation. We're just going to be using this same server to install our DNS services. So at this point, I'm just going to hit next. Now it's going to verify the NetBIOS name. So this is the name that older version operating systems used to connect when they join the domain. This should just autofill here with the My Labs. That's good. We're going to hit next. And now it's going to show the location where it will install the Active Directory domain services, the database, the sysvol, and the log file settings. Now, before we proceed here with further with this installation, I'm just going to take a quick sidestep for a quick discussion on sysvol. So when we install Active Directory domain services, this folder sysvol automatically shares in the network, because sysvol takes the responsibility to exchange information between domain controllers. So say if you have more than one domain controller and you update something here on this server, it'll automatically update on any other associated domain controller servers. So we have this automatic exchange of information between the domain controllers, which is known as replication. So the replication happens dependent on the folder where all the databases are stored, known as our sysvol. So after install, we can verify our sysvol automatic sharing folder. So I'm going to show you that real quick. And real quick, we're going to go to our run, and I'm just going to bring up my command prompt. And while we are in here, I will select net share. And so this command helps you find all of the share folders that are available in your computer. So when we look at this currently, we can see that we do not have the sysvol folder available. And that's because we haven't installed our Active Directory yet. Something else I'll show you while we're here is Event Viewer, Event EWR. And Event Viewer is the log management system of your computer. Whenever we install Active Directory, our system generates an event ID by the name and by the ID number 1000. That event ID 1000 helps us to recognize that our Active Directory was installed. And this event ID will generate twice. Once for when you install a role, and the second time for when you install the Active Directory services after configuration. So we're going to open this event viewer. I'm just going to hit enter now. Give that a second to pop up here. We have our event viewer window here that's popped up. Let me just maximize that there. So to the left here, you can see a folder by the name of applications and service logs. And then inside here, we'll see another folder by the name of directory services. So I'm going to select that. And here, we currently don't see any events just yet. So once we finish our installation here, our sys folder will update as well as our event ID. So that's just a good way to double check someone's computer to ensure that their Active Directory domain services is installed properly. And we can check both these things. So we're going to finish our installation now and then come back and verify both of these things here. So let me just close this down. I'm going to exit out of the command prompt. And then we'll go ahead and select next here. And now at this point, it's just having me review my selections. At this point, it's kind of creating the databases and our folders in our system, and then it's going to ask us to review. I'm just going to move along with next here. Now it's going to verify all the prerequisites of our system, our setup, and just validate everything here in our administrative account. Once it's finished, it will give us a successful check marker here, and then we can install. Select install here. Now, when it installs, it will reboot the machine. Once it reboots, we'll log back in and verify the sys folder creation and event viewer event IDs, which I demonstrated earlier. So while this is finishing and reboots, I'm going to go ahead and just pause the video and I'll resume after I'll log back in here. Okay, so now I'm logged back into my server here, and when I logged back in for my login screen, it did show me now as administrator for the domain name we created. So my login username was essentially mylabs/administrator. And here we can see from our dashboard that we now have our Active Directory and our DNS here installed. So from here, we're going to go ahead and verify our sys folder creation and event viewer IDs for our Active Directory install. So first thing here, we're just going to go to run again. I'm going to bring up the command prompt. We will do run net share again. And now we can see our sys folder creation, which was non-existent previously to our install here. So that's our first verification. Now I'm going to go to our event viewer, and we'll bring that up. We're going to go to our application and service logs. And then we'll bring up our directory service. And now when we enter this folder, we can see all of these events that were created. So I'm going to expand this window just a bit here. And we'll look for our event ID 1000 here. When I click on that, you'll see Microsoft Active Directory Domain Services Startup Complete. And then we can see our computer with our domain label, server 2016a.mylabs.net. So here we've confirmed the completion of our installation of ADDS, and we'll move on to learning about group policy services. And I just really quick wanted to scroll down because I did mention before that we get two of these event ID 1000. This one here being same thing. but it just shows the server 2016A, not the full computer name, which we saw here with the MyLabs.net. So at this point, I'm going to close all windows. It's going to refresh. And for the next portion, I'm going to conclude this lab here just so that we're not going too high on time, but we'll zoom exactly where we left off here.